Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another Instant Deck Tech. So as you know, Tuesday means it's Type 2 or Standard Tuesday, and today we're heading to Rivals of Ixalan Standard to check out a pretty unique take on a Dinosaur deck. So we've seen Dino decks in Standard recently, but they're mostly like mid-rangey, Ripjaw, Raptor, Regisaur Alpha. This deck is going super big. This is Four-Color Dino-Ramp, looking to cast some of the biggest, baddest dinosaurs in all of Standard. Comes to us from Kanabi Kajiru, who took it to a top 8 finish in a small Japanese tournament, so congrats to Kanabi on a really spicy deck. A quick reminder before we break down Four-Color Dino-Ramp for Standard. If you enjoy this deck and you want to see it made into videos, take a minute, click the like button, the subscribe button, leave a comment, anything you can do to support your deck, because whichever deck is most popular gets a shot at being made into videos next week. So Four-Color Dino-Ramp is kind of all about the ramp. That's the most important part of the deck. We are looking to cast some really expensive stuff, and if we just wait and cast our 6 drops, 7 drops, 8 drops naturally, gonna be a bit too slow, but we have a ton of powerful ramp to speed up the process. So Thunderherd Migration in a deck with a bunch of dinosaurs, and we don't have a ton, but we have a few dinosaurs, is basically a rampant growth. Worst case, we cast it for 1 more mana. Sure, whatever, that's still fine, and we're still getting kind of a Spring to Mine out of the deal. Gift of Paradise gains us some life, also ramps us. Spring to Mine is sweet because it's an expensive rampant growth, 1 more mana, but then in the mid to late game, we can draw a couple cards with the mind half of it from our graveyard. So it's kind of a nice bonus that it's ramping us and then giving us some cards in hand when we need it. These cards are getting us up to the 5 mana slot where we have Hour of Promise, and Hour of Promise is huge for our deck. We had a bunch of deserts, which means Hour of Promise is going to give us 2/2/2 zombies pretty much all the time. Plus, after we resolve Hour of Promise, we're going to go from 5 mana up to 7 mana, which means if we make our land drop the next turn, which hopefully we will, then we can cast literally any single card in our deck. So all of our really big, powerful stuff that's going to win us the game. So what are we ramping into with all these ramp cards? Well, first off, we have the 2 hardest to deal with dinosaurs in all of Standard. In the 6 mana slot, we get Carnage Tyrant. Just massive, trampling, hexproof, can't be countered. So if we can ramp into this on maybe turn 4 if we're lucky, this is really hard to deal with. It is so much bigger than everything else going on, trampling over chump blockers, and hexproof means cast out, doesn't deal with it. Our opponent really needs a Wrath to deal with it. If Carnage Tyrant isn't enough, we also have Nizalel, Primal Tide, which doesn't have hexproof, but it's still really hard to deal with. It can't be countered, just like Carnage Tyrant, and then even though it doesn't have hexproof, we can discard 3 cards to exile it and then return it at the beginning of the next end step. So if our opponent does try to kill it, we can avoid it. We get a 7/7 for our trouble. We have no maximum hand size, and whenever our opponent casts any non-creature spell, we get to draw a card. So it's refilling our hand, it's fueling our ability to protect it by discarding cards. Because our opponent casts a removal spell, we're going to draw a card. They cast a card draw spell in Opt, we're going to draw a card. They cast a Planeswalker, we're going to draw a card. So it just keeps cycling us through our deck like crazy. So these are our 2 primary finishers. Big, hard to deal with, coming down quickly thanks to our ramp. For the aggro matchups, we also have Verdant Sun's Avatar, which isn't hard to deal with, isn't quite as big, but gains us a ton of life. Enters the battlefield, going to gain us 5 from entering the battlefield by itself, and then when Carnage Tyrant enters the battlefield, we're gaining 6. When Nizalel enters the battlefield, we're gaining 7. So this is just a ton of life for an aggressive deck to get through, especially considering the big bodies that we're going to have on the battlefield. So the dinosaurs are what we're working towards. We also have a bunch of sweet removal. So Abrade for the early game gets creatures, gets God Pharaoh's Gifts, gets artifacts. Cut to Ribbons is pretty sweet because not only is it a way to kill a creature on turn 2, in the late game, when we have tons of mana, we can actually Ribbons it back. We don't really have black lands, but thanks to Gift of Paradise and some of our weird non-basics, we can actually get the 2 black mana we need to cast it. And then Hour of Devastation is our big sweeper. If we can ramp into this by turn 4, should sweep the board not only of creatures but of planeswalkers as well, letting us untap in Carnage Tyrant, Nizalel, Verdant Sun's Avatar on an empty board. And on an empty board, those threats are super devastating. Also worth mentioning that both Carnage Tyrant and Nizalel are big enough that Hour of Devastation doesn't kill them. So we can cast this, sweep our opponent's board, and still have our huge hexproof, hard to deal with Dinosaur on the battlefield to take over the game. Commune with Dinosaurs helps support our Thunderherd migration, also helps make sure that we find our dinosaurs, because we don't have a ton of dinosaurs in our deck, 7 in all, which means there's a risk that we just ramp, never find a dinosaur. Well, Commune with Dinosaurs helps eliminate that problem. Worst case, we just grab a land, that's fine, lands are always helpful in a ramp deck. Best case, we're finding our Carnage Tyrants, our Vernsun's Avatar when we need them to win the game. As our backup finisher, we have Sandworm Convergence, and Sandworm Convergence has gone a bit better in Standard. So obviously, making a 5/5 every turn is pretty good. After 2 turns, we're kind of getting our value worth out of it. 10 power and toughness across 2 bodies for 8 mana. After 3 turns, it's great. 4 turns, it's even more insane. The thing that makes it better now than before, though, is there's a lot of decks that are using Rekindling Phoenix and Glorybringer as their primary win conditions, and Sandworm Convergence shuts down those deck hard. So if our opponent's playing a Grixis deck, if our opponent's playing red-black aggro, any of those style decks, Sandworm Convergence is just insane, and that's not even including the other decks that have flyers, Heart of Kurans, Favorable Winds decks. So the metagame has shifted in a way where beating flyers is kind of important, so having a moat for flyers is actually really good. Mana base wise, we have a ton of deserts, not just to support our Hour of Promise, but because deserts do some pretty sweet things. So Scavenger Grounds to exile graveyards against Scarab Gods, God Pharaoh Gifts, Rivulet, Oasis to do some pumping. Oasis is actually weirdly good with Carnage Tyrant. If our opponent is able to block it, we can make it a 10-9, which is even harder for our opponent to jump and kill. Plus 10 damage with Carnage Tyrant 2 times means we kind of 2-shot our opponent with Carnage Tyrant. Painted Bluffs for a little fixing, get that black mana. Couple of the cycling deserts as well, and a bunch of basic lands. As far as the sideboard, we get some more removal. Sweltering Suns as another sweeper. Chandra's Defeat for Chandra's in mono red. Thrashing Brontodon gives us kind of some artifact / enchantment removal. Actually, all these cards are kind of removal in their own way. Chandra can be a removal spell, also card advantage engine in controlling matchups to help keep up with the hard counterspell removal type decks. Glorybringer, hasty threat, more removal on a body. Negates to deal with Approach of the Second Sons and control decks. And then, our backup finishers, probably my favorite, Torment of Hailfire. Yes, we don't have any real black mana, but thanks to Gift of Paradise, we can have the surprise Torment of Hailfire kill from the sideboard. If our opponent's trying to deal with our creatures, we could bring in the sorcery to get them, and another Nizalel as well. And that is Four-Color Dino-Ramp for Standard. And that's our instant deck for today. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up on all the latest and greatest, click that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to, check out some of our other sweet videos here and here.